Welcome to Forum 360, a global outlook with a local view. We're a nonprofit grant and donation-funded program that depends on volunteer hosts who present a wide variety of topics. Go to forum360.org to find out more about us and how to access our TV, radio, and YouTube programs. I'm your host, Pat Simons. Recently, I've become more aware of the increasing numbers of women leaders who are making a big impact in Northeast Ohio. They're serving in a wide variety of roles. Today I'm speaking with the Honorable Judge Mary Margaret Rowlands of Summit County Common Pleas Court General Division. She was also the former chair of District 7 for Ohio of the National Association of Women's Judges, and she is still a member. Welcome to the show, Judge Rowlands. We're glad to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. Now, I thought we'd start out by talking about your education background, your law experience, and why you chose the law.
Well, it's a long and windy path, as is the path of many women sometimes. And I had graduated from college with an accounting degree. At the time I graduated, I already had one child. I graduated and thought, oh, an accountant. I'm not sure that's what I want to do. But my former husband was then at the University of Chicago, and we lived in Chicago, and we were having a wonderful, exciting international life there, full of all kinds of wonderful and interesting people. And he was transferred to Northeast Ohio. Oh. And I said, boy, what am I going to do? When I graduated college, I had taken the LSAT, which is the entry-level exam to get into law school, mostly just because I knew someone else who had taken it. Unsurprised to me, I scored extremely well on it. But then, within a few weeks, I found out I was going to have another child. And so I tucked it away. And when we came to Ohio, my then husband said, why don't you pull out that test and go to law school? And I said, good idea. So I did. And I got accepted, and I went to the University of Akron. Oh. And that's it. It's rather serendipitous. There are many people who grow up believing this is what they're going to do. And I was an older student. I had 2 children, and I went to law school. And then when I graduated from law school, things just start to fall into place. And often the way you find your place in the law is dependent on who gives you your first job. And so I was hired to a small firm. We did primarily represented people charged with crime and also people who had suffered serious injuries. We did a lot of constitutional work, civil rights work, things like that on behalf of plaintiffs. And my partner, Bill Whitaker, and I had a firm, Whitaker and Rowlands, and I practiced law for about 20 years. After my youngest was graduating from college, I felt a real need to devote myself to public service. I think, and being a judge was the step for that. And that was in 2004. I ran for judge then. I wasn't successful in that election. I ran again then in 2008. And so now almost 11 years I have served on the bench.
Oh, that's quite a path to getting there. I wanted to talk about the National Association of Women Judges. I found that really fascinating. On the website it says it was founded in 1979, and one of the founding members was Chief Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, yes, which I thought was interesting. It also says that to this day, all female U.S. Supreme Court justices have been or are members of the National
They are very
Women's.
active members. Justice Ginsburg travels to all kinds of events. She, this year, well, in May of 2018, we shared a biennial event with the International Association of Women Judges. And Justice Ginsburg, although she was suffering from a bout of shingles at the time, gave a video presentation, live streamed into the group. So the justices are very active, and it's a joyful opportunity for me to be part of that.
To be able to work together would be very powerful. Now, this is a nonprofit, nonpartisan
Yes.
organization?
Yes.
And there is no governmental function attached to
That's
this?
correct.
It's a
That's-
professional. And what is the mission and outreach of this group? What do you do for your members?
Well, the members, what we do for the members is a lot of education, a lot of sisterhood, just time together sharing our challenges, our successes, our approaches to things. We have judges from the highest court in the land, the United States Supreme Court, through all the branches of the federal courts, the state courts, municipal courts. So the judges work, courts of appeal, trial courts, so many different types, but the judges' work is varied among the membership.
Good resource for each other?
We
and
are.
Networking opportunities
We
as
are.
well?
And we just enjoy spending time together, listening to one another. You learn so much from other people doing similar kinds of work in different types of circumstances. And there's always something to glean and bring back. And so we do a lot of education. One of the very first programs I went to was on human trafficking in Chicago, and it was quite a long time before the topic was raised here in Summit County. I remember going thinking, human trafficking, I mean, I don't even know what that is. And it was, we heard from judges in the Bronx, South Florida, parts of the United States, where they explained to us the definition of human trafficking, which was quite different from the definition I walked in there thinking I was going to hear about. And I brought a lot back with me. I started to look at women and vulnerable people who came into my court with a different eye. So the educational piece for members is a really big one, but I certainly can't undermine or underplay just the camaraderie and the sisterhood and the sharing that we do.
Now, who all can join the association?
Anyone can join.
Male or female?
We have lots of male members too. And so anyone who shares our mission, which is supporting diversity in the courts, supporting equal access to justice is a primary focus of the group, and fairness and equality, consideration for the people who come to our courts, and recognizing that there are populations who are more vulnerable than others, and being keenly aware of that.
It sounds like a very powerful place to be. Now, there's also an International Association of Women Judges.
Yes.
Is the national aligned with the international?
We are. It is. The National Association of Women Judges has about 1,200 members in the United States. It's the American Association, if you will. There is a Canadian association, an Argentinian association. In the International Association of Women Judges, we have now about 100 countries represented.
Wow.
6,000 members, women judges, and the national organizations are members under the umbrella in some ways of the International Association.
The 100 countries, that's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Mind-boggling. Now, I wanted to turn a little bit to the election of judges. And when we look at the numbers following an election, there tends to be a low voter turnout for judges by the voters. And I was wondering if you know why or what you think that is.
Well, I do. In 2008, when I was elected, President Obama was elected that year too. For every 100 votes he got in Summit County, I only got 52.
Oh, wow.
So 48% dropped off from the top of the ticket down to me.
And judges tend to be down.
And we were all in that group, all the judges. There is, my observation about it has been over the years that I don't think a lot of people recognize or believe that the courts and judges are relevant to them.
Until you need them.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Most people are never going to have any trouble with the law. They don't foresee themselves ever having to access the court. And so they just, as with all things that we don't necessarily prioritize for ourselves, focus on that. And then they get into the ballot box and they see this list of people and they think, I don't know. And rather than make a bad choice, they tend to not make any choice at all.
But I've noticed that the national organization is trying to do an education for the voters to encourage them to know their candidates. And one program I saw was Informed Voters Fair Judges Project. There's also a Judicial Votes Count project in Ohio. Is that one way that voters would get information on judicial candidates?
They are all great ways. In my race, though, I can tell you, and I know all of my colleagues have make similar efforts. It costs about $150,000 for me to run my race.
So that's a challenge.
And it is a challenge, and all of that money is spent on getting out information about me. My colleagues do the same. We do many, many mailings to voters. We do many online and other types of media presentations about ourselves, about our backgrounds, our education, our experience.
Are you seeing a payoff for that? Are
Well,
you getting more engagement, or is
no,
it
because we've always done that.
You've always done it.
We've always done that. I just think, I really do believe it is, voters care about who their council person is because that person has real impact, whether their trash gets picked up on the time and their streets are plowed and those kinds of things. They feel a real connection to their mayor and their county council person and their state legislature, and obviously all the way up through their political philosophies often to the president.
And so through your organizations, you're trying to be proactive to encourage. If you're just now joining us, this is Forum 360, and I'm your host, Pat Simons. Today I'm speaking with the Honorable Judge Mary Margaret Rowlands. She is a former chair of the National Association of Women Judges, and she is still a member, and she serves as judge of the Summit County Common Pleas Court General Division. The General Division just recently made history in Summit County and across Ohio as an elected all-female court. Why is it important to have diversity in judges?
I am a strong believer that our courts should look like the community we serve. And in that way, that means diversity in every aspect, race, gender, ethnicity. And I think that it is important for our community to see the 10 of us, and actually it goes beyond that. If you add the other divisions of the Common Pleas Court, the probate court, Judge Stormer is a woman. The juvenile court, Judge Linda Teodosio presides over that court. And in domestic relations, there are 2 judges, Judge Katarina Cook and John Quinn. So of 14 of us in the Common Pleas Court, there are actually 13 women.
Oh, wow. So if you add that all together.
Right.
But it sounds like the courts do well. The judicial count does well. But the report released by the Beacon Journal from the Women's Network of Northeast Ohio was released this year. It says that in general, Summit County is lagging in the nation for diversity, particularly women of color. I just wondered if you had heard of those findings and if you find that that is true and that there's other ways of advancing women.
I have, and the study and the report was critical to our community, to an understanding. Because when you do see things like the Common Pleas Court bench, all female, it can give a false impression about the presence of diversity everywhere. And so I think that was like I said, a very critical piece of work for the community to see where we are, where we should be, and start to close that gap.
And I think that it's being paid attention to. I've seen some action coming out of Summit County Council. When you participate in judicial gatherings on a national level, do you see, what is the percentage of women attending, and have you seen a change over time?
I have not seen a tremendous change. So at any point in time, judges have to get continuing legal education every 2 years and report that. And so we attend a number of forums and seminars for that. Last year, about this time, I attended a seminar over a couple of days up near Cleveland. I think there were about 60 judges. There were 6 women.
Oh my.
Often we'll go to the state organization annual meetings, and there'll be maybe 250 judges there. I think the state average is maybe 30% are women. And
has that changed over time? Is it gradual, or?
It has increased.
But
it definitely has increased. But
it sounds slow.
It is slow. And you know, I graduated from law school in 1989, and a big law firm, I had excellent grades, and a big law firm was interested in me. At the time, I think they had about 90 lawyers. Some of them were women, but I was the only female legal professional that included lawyers and paralegals who had children.
Oh, interesting.
Some women had stepchildren, but none had children, and mine were young. And they just had no idea how this was going to work out.
So it's one of the challenges facing women running for office or serving, that you have that added.
Yeah, it's that we got a very slow start. Keep in mind, we only got the right to vote in 1920. So, you know, we are a long way.
We're still a long way, but it sounds
behind,
like it's...
But because we're women, we're working very hard, and we're moving forward as fast as we can.
Well, I'm really excited to talk about this particular thing. This year you were selected as a presenter at the 63rd session of the Commission on Status of Women, which was held at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. And I believe this is like your 3rd time you've done this. What was the theme this year, and what did you present?
Well, I presented on, the theme was about social services available to women and girls. So the Commission on the Status of Women is a 2-week event held at the United Nations.
And that's international?
It is international.
Okay.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of people come from NGOs, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits throughout the world, all with the focus on women and girls throughout the world. And each year it has a different theme. One year I was, and it was my third opportunity to participate, but one year the theme was rural girls, city women and girls, city women and girls, and, you know, contrasting things between the two. I was a member of the delegation. The International Association of Women Judges is a participant, and they select 20 judges from around the world.
Wow.
And for the last 3, I've been the American judge to participate. And so I spoke about, it was about social services to women and girls that are provided by the courts. And I was, all the judges who were on in my panel were from primarily more family courts. So providing social services to people who were generally victims, victims of neglect, victims of crime, victims of abuse, victims of marital discord, those types of things. Women suffering a lack of property rights. I was the only judge who presided over a court where my services are directed to people who are charged with committing crimes and convicted of committing crimes.
So that was a rather unique
Mine
take
was.
on it. And that was said from your experience, from your court,
Yes.
what you've done. Well, it sounds really fascinating to be among that international setting. I can just feel the power in the whole room when you were presenting. I do want to talk a little bit about your position in the General Division of the Common Pleas Court. What kind of cases do you hear?
In the General Division, we have unlimited jurisdiction over both civil cases, which typically tend to be about money or property rights and things like that. And then, so from a small, relatively small dollar amount up to multi-millions of dollars. And then we have the criminal side, and that has unlimited jurisdiction as well. So we handle all felony cases from the lower levels felonies, drug possession are typically among those charges, all the way up through death penalty cases. And so I have had 3 death penalty cases in the 11 years I've served. And so it's a very broad range of the types of cases that we have.
Do you focus any of your advocacy for women? Is that focused anywhere in your court?
It is. I have been certified by the Ohio Supreme Court as a reentry court judge. Every year, and what reentry is about is helping people. We bring people home from prison early, before their sentence is complete. We hang that over their head. We place them into a very, very, very supervised, structured environment full of services, wraparound services, that help to get at what it is that is the source of their criminal conduct. Every year, 2,500 people come home to Summit County alone from penitentiaries throughout the state. And as I like to say, in 4 years, the time it takes to get a high school diploma, that's 10,000 returning citizens to our community.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a community problem. And to the extent that I can help, I have a reentry court, and it is just a wonderful, wonderful place. I invite people to join us. It's open to the public. It's on Wednesday mornings. And it is just a fascinating place. And you see, my focus is on women, LGBTQ population, and adoptees. And the reason that those are the focuses because their criminal conduct often comes from the same types of trauma that they have suffered. It's a trauma-focused court. People who have suffered trauma tend to have a very severe lack of self-esteem.
And a great deal of difficulty fitting back into society
Yes.
with all of that weighing on them.
Yeah, and we work with women to put their families back together, to get to work.
And with women, there's maybe children involved.
There are almost always children. And so we create, as I said, wraparound services. We have a significant amount of grant funding, so we have resources to help all of our folks. It's a really wonderful thing.
I can only imagine sometimes it may seem daunting and overwhelming because of the pressure of what you do, but that seems like something that you feel good about.
No,
you feel like you can actually make some kind of headway for someone and really change their lives for the better.
We can, and what we do is we get at the source of the trauma, whether it's childhood abuse or abandonment, and we get them to deal with it. And once that hole in their soul is healed, then they can move on through life, recognizing their own value and their own worth.
Well, I think that is an excellent way for us to conclude. That just leaves a great message, and our audience will benefit by hearing that, I'm sure. I want to thank you, Judge Rowlands, for coming today and sharing information about the National Association of Women Judges and how you promote diversity and equity in the legal system. And I want to thank you for offering insights to the importance of voting for judges and the need for diversity in those who serve. It's been interesting to learn about the National Association of Women Judges that promotes equal justice and access to the courts. It works to increase numbers of women as judges and educates voters. And these are just a few of the activities they provide. To learn more about the association, go to nawj.org, and to learn more about their Informed Voters Fair Judges project, go to ivp.nawj.org. For more information on the Summit County Common Pleas Court General Division, go to summitcpcourt.net. This is your host, Pat Simons. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.